Today, we're going to look at the worst songs of the 1960s that made it to number 1 on the Hot 100. Something Stupid, Frank and Nancy Sinatra. Nancy's boots may have been made for walkin', but this single was made for dozin'. You'd have thought a proud, blue-eyed papa and his Pop-Tart daughter would have wanted their duet to swing, if not exactly rock, but Frank sleepwalks through this track while Nancy makes no impression whatsoever. Perhaps the lack of passion here was intentional, to offset the skeeziness of a father-daughter duet on a love song. It doesn't work. Robbie Williams and Nicole Kidman did a vaguely better version for Robbie's Swing When You're Winning album.
I know I stand in line until you think you have the time to spend an evening with me.
Hello Goodbye, The Beatles. The Beatles were responsible for just about 10% of the songs that reached number 1 between 1961 and 1970. You can look it up, so it would seem natural that they make an appearance on this list. But I don't include Hello Goodbye just to establish a Beatles beachhead. Come on, admit it, this is one dippy little piece of Paul poo. Imagine, John shows up in the studio with frickin' I Am the Walrus, and Paul says, "Right, mate, I've got a perfect little A-side for that one," and starts in on the Hela, hey ba hello up bit. And John thinks, not for the last time, how do you sleep? Over and over, the Dave Clark 5. Meet your newest members of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. The DC5 were coattail riders, crossing the Atlantic in the Beatles' wake and scoring 7 top 10s before the end of '65. This was the last one, and for some reason the biggest, a cover of a Bobby Day single from 1958 that somehow managed to sneak past Turn 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 and into the top slot for a week before being swatted away by The Sounds of Silence and We Can Work It Out. I mention those other songs because they make clear that, even as the Beatles, Paul Simon and the Byrds, and, of course, Dylan, were moving pop onto more intellectual ground, the DC5 were still spinning their wheels as though it were January '64. Yo, Jan Wenner and company, what are these guys doing in the Hall of Fame? If they were so great, why does it appear that they have nothing in print, not even a hits disc? Anyway, enjoy the video clip. I believe George Balanchine did the choreography. Don't Break the Heart That Loves You, Connie Francis. Connie was the top female vocalist of rock and roll's first decade, scoring dozens of Fun in the Sun pop hits that one would have thought were reserved for Annette Funicello. That's okay, Annette was a better actress. Connie had some nice, snappy hits, but this maudlin Slice-O-L was not one of them. Sealing a place for this song on this list is the fact that it was written by the same duo who composed Babyface a million years ago. My daughter hated Babyface so much that she gave up dance lessons rather than perform to it during a recital. Anyway, Connie famously lived a nightmare during the 1970s, raped following a gig. She couldn't perform for years afterward. My generation remembers her best as the TV pitchwoman for her own greatest hits set, in the most ubiquitous such commercial this side of Slim Whitman or Boxcar Willie's. When a Man Loves a Woman, Percy Sledge. I recognize full well that this is one of the greatest soul songs ever. Hell, it's even got a bad drunk Meg Ryan movie named after it. But what can I say? I can't stand this man's voice. It's like fingernails on a chalkboard. In fact, he sounds like he's having his fingernails pulled out while he's singing. Please, Mr. Cheney, stop torturing poor Percy. I prefer Bette Midler's version of this song. I'm tempted to say I prefer Michael Bolton's as well, but I recognize I'm already this close to earning a one-way trip to Hades, so I'll stop right here. Love Is Here and Now You're Gone, the Supremes. Diana Ross and her fellow Supremes were Motown's lowest common denominator. The Wonder Bread that Berry Gordy used to ease actually soulful singers like Levi Stubbs, David Ruffin and Marvin Gaye onto pop radio. Love Is Here and Now You're Gone is the worst of the Soup's dozen number 1 hits, a bit of candy floss that, in trying to recapture the magic of their previous hit, You Keep Me Hanging On features several of the most ludicrous spoken word asides in pop history. You closed the door to your heart and you turned the key / locked your love away from me. Cough. Diana hacks after the first chorus, enunciating in ridiculous Motown charm school fashion. This was the beginning of a down period for the group that would continue until they got all socially conscious with Love Child 2 years later. Pony Time, Chubby Checker. I like this song a lot better when it was called The Twist. The latter is not exactly the greatest song in history, but it's been propped up for a half-century by the continued popularity of its associated dance, Pony Time can make no such claim. Does anyone under age 55 remember how to do the pony? If you're interested, you can go here and learn it. Me, I'm moving on. Sheila, Tommy Rowe.
Oh, sugar, where you been?
No. Wrong song, that's the 80s. Rowe is the man behind two of the best bubblegum hits ever, Sweet Pea and Dizzy. Unfortunately, he first was responsible for this exercise in Buddy Holly grave robbing. Sheila is a cute little song, but come on, Tommy, get your own style. Rowe was only 18 when he first recorded Sheila, just a year after Holly's death, so it's tempting to forgive him his youthful indiscretion. Nah, screw it, Buddy's estate should have sued over Sheila the way Tom Waits did over those Doritos commercials in the early 90s.
Take you back to my first big hit now. This is the one that got it all started for me in the year 1962, and it goes like this. Sweet little Sheila, you know her if you see her. Blue eyes and a ponytail.
Hello, I love you, The Doors. I hate The Doors. Hate 'em. Always have, always will. I hang on to my copy of the 1985 second edition of the Rolling Stone record guide just so I can occasionally reread Dave Marsh as he brings the hammer down on that obnoxious and insipid cult that now surrounds Jim Morrison. He concludes, "Is this the most overrated group in rock history?"
Hello, I love you, won't you tell me your name? Hello, I love you, let me jump in your game.
That said, it's hard to argue with Light My Fire, so instead I'll call out the hunk of junk known as Hello, I Love You. It features a typically pompous, dick-swinging Morrison vocal and annoying keyboard effects by Ray Manzarek, all in the service of a girl-watching song that trashily rips off the theme of Roy Orbison's Oh Pretty Woman. By the way, have I told you how much I hate The Doors? Honey, Bobby Goldsboro. This song, written by Bobby Russell, has topped many a worst of all-time list, and with good reason. It's not merely syrupy and maudlin, it's downright confused in its point of view. Who the heck is Bobby singing to here? Is it the friend who has to hear ad nauseum about that stupid tree? Or is it Honey in the Great Beyond, with whom Bobby would love to be if only I could? Well, I say get on with it. Number one hits of the 60s offered endless possibilities for offing yourself. You could crash your motorcycle, like in Leader of the Pack, or you could go back to fetch your boyfriend's ring after your car stalls on the train tracks, as in Teen Angel. Oh, Mark Dinning, how close you came to making this list. Russell also wrote that drecky song about how God didn't make the little green apples, maybe they're poison. Pull one down from the damn tree and find out. Just, for crying out loud, don't tell me about it afterward. I'm not your friend.
And honey, I miss you. And I'm being good.
That was our show for today. What did you think? Are there any other bad songs from the 60s that made it to number one that we left out? Let me know in the comments, and, while you're at it, if you haven't already, click that like button, subscribe to my channel and check out my Carl Vincent Vampire Hunter franchise, also in the comments section. Until next time, this is Andrew in for Kevin Gibbon saying live long and prosper. May the force be with you and keep reaching for the stars.